I don't know. Say it with me. I don't know. Good God, it is liberating. I am a towering mountain of ignorance. I don't know. The vast majority of things. Vast majority. I don't know. And not just because of the sheer number of things, but also the number of things that affect those things. We live in an age where we're taught to believe that everything has a reason. And so we observe the world, we see what happened, and then we define the thing that happened as the reason the thing happened. We have the desire to understand the world. That results in all sorts of great stuff. We want to know everything. We're humans, we're curious, and maybe it's our culture, maybe it's just humanity. But I think a lot of the time we end up mixing up thinking something with knowing something. But somehow everyone else seems to know. They all know differently from each other, but they all seem to know. When you look at all deeply at this, you realize that people aren't basing their opinions on what they think is the best course of action or the actual best explanation for it. They're basing it on their values, and that's fine. That's what values are for, and values are great. But it might be a little silly to think that you've discovered the best possible course of action just because you figured out a way to turn your values into an executable vision. Now, these guesses are useful, tremendously useful. We convert our amalgamated opinions into, like, reality. That's the terrifying beauty of culture. But they are just guesses. What I'm saying is nobody's opinions are correct in the world. And yet it's impossible not to tie your opinions to your concept of self. And often people tie those things so closely together that they begin defending their guesses as if they're defending their very lives. In a way, they are. This is why it can be so impossible to talk about certain topics with certain people. They've tied those suppositions to themselves so tightly with knots of narrative and constructed reality and values that there's just no untying it. And maybe, unsurprisingly, in those situations, the best course of action is just to be friends. Maybe even ask them about that thing that they've created, because to them, as it is to all of us, it's immensely valuable. The world as we perceive it, as we've built it inside of ourselves, is a lie that we tell to ourselves, not out of deception, but out of necessity. We have no other choice. We simply cannot understand the world as it is, and so we construct. And it's a useful construction, and it allows us to do many amazing things, but sometimes I just have to tell myself the thing that is definitely true, the truest thing I can say, which is that I don't know.
That is an excerpt from Towering Mountains of Ignorance. It's Hank Green of the Vlog Brothers. His brother, John Green, famous author of The Fault in Our Stars, put that together, and it sums up what our show's all about better than I ever could. So my thanks to Hank Green. Hey, I'm Cass Midgley. Welcome to Everyone's Agnostic podcast. My co-host and I, Bob Pondillo, will be interviewing Sam Rhimes. Sam's an old high school friend. He lives in California now, in Los Angeles. Before we get into Sam's interview, Bob and I are going to talk about a few things, and then we'll get right into it. So thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy it.
My mother-in-law had an opportunity to hear the show, and she told my wife, who was visiting in Wisconsin,
her daughter
last week, that tell Bob that I heard the show, and I'm very disappointed in him.
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
How about that?
That hurts.
A little bit. Yes, it does. It does. She's a great lady, wonderful woman, and I love her daughter deeply.
No specifics, no details, just I'm disappointed.
Just very disappointed. Okay. I mean, she's a Lutheran,
okay, and
she didn't like it. And then, I recently retired from MTSU, and I was looking around for maybe another gig, maybe an adjunct gig or something,
Right.
And Lipscomb University has a brand new film program, and I've done a lot of work in film and writing and what have you, screenwriting. And had a chance to go up there and had a very nice interview with the fellas there at Lipscomb. But they did say, well, we're going to, there is a faith statement that you must make.
Right.
And I thought, okay, sure, I could do that, sure.
But you'd be lying.
I would be lying, yeah. I mean, I could say I don't have a faith in the way you have a faith. But that really just set me back. It's a private university. They can do whatever they want, and it's a religious university as well.
Church of Christ. Yeah.
Church of Christ, right? But boy, so I had to write the guy back and say, just like you said, I would be disingenuous if I said what I have to say, and I don't have a pastor to go to write a letter. In fact, I remember asking you, would you would you be my my pastor? But that's just creepy. That's lying. And and I think too the stuff they do, all the films that are going to be made are in not that there's anything wrong with this, but would be in praise to Jesus or in praise to a Christian belief of some kind. Sure. And I think you can say a lot of things without going there, to tell you the truth.
More.
In fact,
much more.
I would say more. And most of the movies that I make have spiritual kind of undertones.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, congratulations to you.
Well, to us.
To us, all right. But
we did have somebody that blogged about us.
Who's the person?
Her name is Tracy Moody, and it's called The Moody Atheist, a rowdy speck of dust in the vast universe. And you can find her, it's themoodyAtheist.com.
The interview we had with Sam Rhyme, boy.
Yeah, that's coming up next.
What a great interview. Jeez.
Okay, just to preface a little bit of what to expect, he's a little feisty, and especially with me. And he speaks his mind, and he's an honest, transparent person on a journey.
Yes, he is.
He was diagnosed with HIV a couple of years ago and is working through that. Didn't come out as gay until he was 30, but knew he was gay at 5. And I get near the end of the show, he starts talking in a way that he is on the precipice of a new chapter in his life.
That's true. I think he is.
It sounded like you, and how many times you've reinvented yourself, and myself included.
Yeah, it takes a lot of courage to do that. You are so afraid, because this is all you know.
Well,
and now you've got to do something.
You start from scratch at middle age.
Yeah, exactly.
And I got a book one time called Late Bloomers, and it was just a list of people who basically had failure after failure most of their life, and then boom, planets aligned, and they made their mark.
It's one of those things where I knew I couldn't continue what I was doing because it would kill me.
Right.
That's how I felt.
Right.
So I had to move forward in a different direction, and it's right. It is fearful, but these people that we're talking to, not just us, but these people face the same valley of the shadow of death or whatever, and pulled through. There's a lot of resiliency in these folks, and it's important for us to hear that. I think everybody should hear that, and I think by hearing it, if you're sort of in that mode where you're going to change yourself, or you're trying to, it's good to know you're not alone. I felt alone. I didn't know there was other people out there like me, but clearly you're not the Lone Ranger here.
No, you are in your personal journey, but you're not in that other people have taken similar personal journeys that were as flying blind and making it up as you go. Right. And what do I do now? How now shall I live? The bottom's just been yanked out of my life. Right. I don't know what to do next. I'm going to take a step forward and hope that it means something and leads somewhere. Yeah. And it's dark, it's quiet, it's scary, all of those things. I also want to say, we've got so many announcements, but Bob has a new movie coming out. Yeah. Talk about that.
Well, we're almost done. We're working on a film called Happy New Year, Mr. Cates. And it's a story of an old fart, lives in a nursing home, keeps running away. And from the home, that is. And then one night, and he's brought back, of course. And then one night on New Year's Eve, he finds an opportunity to run away again. And he does. And he meets up with a very mysterious stranger. Anyway, it'll be out, I'm hoping, by, a month or so from now.
So how can people, is it Amazon or?
Well, we'll probably put it up online, and
we'll talk about it in the
future,
in the next episode.
Okay, that sounds good.
So let's bring on Sam Rhymes.
Great.
So, Sam, what we do is every time we just start off with people's religious background. So tell us about your childhood religious experience.
Yeah, in Oklahoma.
I grew up in a insane household, but when I was first born, I was christened a Methodist, and that was pretty much the end of that religious experience. I went to church on one Sunday, Palm Sunday, I remember that. Cut to 7 years old, parents getting divorced. I was not raised in a religious household. My mom was not into religion. She believed in God. She believed in being good. She believed in heaven and all that good stuff, praying, but it was never forced upon it. But I was 14 years old, short little fat kid with bad complexion, gay to the core, but hiding out.
So you knew it at an early age?
Oh, I knew from the get-go. I think I came out in stilettos. I don't know.
So really, a lot of people say around 12, but you knew earlier than that, than 12 years old?
Put this way. I was probably 5 years old, sitting at my father's mother's vanity in Texas, in West Texas, and brushing my hair with her hair, trying to curl my hair and all this stuff. And his mother, my grandmother, came in and looked at me with disdain and total shock and didn't know what the hell to do with me, because in Texas, you're not allowed to do that kind of stuff. So,
comb your hair?
Well, he was primping.
Oh, I see. You
Thank you.
Had a little rouge or lipstick or something? I don't know.
No, it was, from my earliest memories, I knew that I was different. I knew that I was wrong. I knew that I wasn't like other little boys. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what you called it. I just knew that I didn't fit in like everybody else.
Sure.
And I remember, one morning my mom going to work, and I was getting ready for school, and I was sitting in a very, very hot bathtub. I took my mom's razor blade and started to cut my wrist, and I don't know to this day who it was, what it was, but I heard a voice that said, "Not this one, this one's mine." And from that moment on, for whatever reason, I had some kind of a string thing. Shortly after that, I got chased into going to a youth group. It was a Church of Christ youth group from a friend. There's a youth minister, Gary Crowley, who he was a very good man, really good man. First time in my life I had a relationship with a man that didn't want anything sexually from me, that there was nothing weird. He was just a very good man. Showed me love. And I think probably being part of that youth group and part of that church, as strange and ritualistic as it is now, probably saved my life.
Wow.
Kept my life.
Yeah. Wow. So you've received both the brunt of rejection and judgment from the institution, the organized religion. And here's an exception. Here's a guy, he was a youth pastor, and he showed you a different side. And in a way, I think when religious people do good things, there's a tendency for us to applaud. The place where I'm coming from typically is that's how he should have been treated by period.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's almost like he had to overcome his religion in order to be normally good.
Right. Sam, can I take a step back? When you were in the shower or in the hot tub and you took the razor blade, how old were you then?
14.
14. So something, and then you said you heard a voice, or you thought you heard a voice? Or what?
I did. I don't know to this day, but back then, I would call it God, because that was the only.
So it was not an audible voice, but yet it was audible to you, audible to your spirit, something to where
it was absolutely audible to me. I don't know if it was in my head, if it was externally, what it was. I just heard this voice that said, "Not this one, this one's mine," and I physically felt very different. I felt. Not that anything got easier or better or lighter, but I felt safe at that point. I felt protected.
Well, and maybe it was, I might have a reason to stay alive.
I don't know, because I remember just within mere seconds after that, I heard, I got a flash of 9 hours, 10 hours later, when my mom came home and she would find me in this cold bathtub full of blood and dead, and what that would do to her.
Oh, yeah.
And that stopped me.
So I know, talk about your mom. I know you and her were very close.
It's funny because it's so stereotypical and has been played such a stereotypical thing. Any gay man on TV is flamboyant.
You're a mama's boy.
Close. Exactly. It wasn't like that with my mom and I. When we got divorced when I was about 7, and it was just my mom and I. We moved from a very wealthy 2-story big corner house, with the ski boats and camping gear. My sister was a cheerleader. My brother was a captain of the football team. To truly what was a shithole house, but it was all that my mom could afford. So it was just the two of us. And the
other two stay with Dad or something.
I have 2 brothers and a sister that stayed with my dad, and they moved to Texas. That's where he was from originally.
So how did that work? Was everybody given a choice?
There's so much messed up stuff about that. But basically, my oldest brother at that point, who was I think 16, had already moved out on his own. He was already living on his own. But my brother and sister, my dad basically bought him, owned him. Bought him everything that they could ever want.
But he didn't buy you. I mean, why did you leave? I mean, if everybody else stayed and everybody else got big toys for staying, was it your choice, or did he send you?
No, I remember. This was back in the day when the courts, in their infinite wisdom, would put a child on a stand and say, "Who do you want to live with, your mom or dad?" And I remember my oldest brother got me from school one day, took me to grandma's for lunch, and then told me I had to go to the courthouse to talk to the judge. And I went to the judge's chamber. This man who looked like 8 feet tall and, very heartless, and set me down in this chair, this leather chair, and told me that I couldn't live with my mom and dad anymore. I said I wanted to live with them. He said, "You can't. Who do you want to live with? Tell me who you want to live." I'm a 6-year-old, 7-year-old kid. I think it's only normal that I wanted to stay with my mom.
Sure.
Right. I never. It's weird. I think there were probably moments when I felt close to my dad, but I don't really remember feeling a real strong connection with him. But for whatever reason, it was my mom, and so I stayed with her, and it was tough. My mom was a stubborn, strong woman, but she didn't control me. She didn't tell me what to do. It wasn't like all those stereotypical kind of crap things that, she let me do what I wanted to do, which probably in hindsight might not have been the best thing, but it also allowed me to jump when I needed to jump and to grow. She encouraged me. She was amazing at encouraging me artistically.
Sounds like she gave you a lot of freedom.
She did. She was amazing.
I'm talking curfews and everything, like when to come home, and she treated you like a grown-up.
I never violated any of that stuff. I never pushed any of that stuff. I was a homebody. I look back, and my high school memories, I was not hanging out at night with friends and all that. I was a homebody because I didn't fit in. Everyone else was talking about, getting laid with chicks or whatever. I couldn't talk. I couldn't say what I wanted to do. When my crush was on the football, half the football team, or I couldn't talk about that stuff. You didn't do that back then, and certainly not in Oklahoma.
You hardly do it now in Oklahoma.
Well, I was called a faggot from the get go. Every name in the book from junior high on up.
Yeah. So as far as not a lot of religious upbringing, you ended up in youth groups because of your peers or stuff like that, but your mom wasn't forcing anything down your throat.
No.
So jump forward to like when you got out of high school and you were, you kind of got your wings. Tell us about what you did, even just logistically. Did you move to Nashville first, or where?
No. Out of high school, I went to college and still stayed at home because Oklahoma State University was like 45 minutes away.
Yeah.
And I had a good job there. And again, I didn't fit in with the college kids. In hindsight now, that was probably one of the biggest mistakes I could have made. But at the time, I didn't feel comfortable out in the world. I didn't know how to be out in the world because who do I talk to?
Right.
Who do I become friends with? And, I wasn't into dating girls, and that's all you do in college is start trying to get laid.
So did you finish your undergrad?
I did. I have a bachelor's of science in sociology and early childhood development from Oklahoma State. During that time, I was involved at a non-denominational church started by some folks, long-haired, hippie freaks. And again, I think it was, I did have a genuine belief in God, in this thing, this big sky God, but I think even more than that, it was I belonged to something.
Yeah,
I belonged with a group of people.
Yeah.
That even though I couldn't acknowledge who I was or what I was, I belonged. I fit in for a change, or at least I thought I did.
Yeah. Right.
At least I played the role for one.
Sure.
And I kept waiting for God to heal me, to fix me. I went through sex counseling, Christian counseling. I went through exorcism. I went through our deliverance. I went through all of that crap, and didn't take. I still like dick.
So praying the gay away didn't work for you.
Yeah.
I even, did the whole deliverance, throwing up in a trash can, and it lasted till I walked out onto the street and saw the guys jogging in Nashville. I'm like, okay, it didn't work.
Yeah. So you did end up in Nashville after college?
Yeah, actually, well, after college, I worked for the state of Oklahoma for almost 6 years. I was a juvenile probation parole counselor.
You're a creative person, and was there any outlet for your creativity at that? I mean, I see you as like one of the most creative people I know. So you're like this fountain of creativity, and here you are at a desk job, something to where you're holed up.
I can just suck away your spirit.
Oh, it was hard. I mean, I was involved in community theater at that point, but which was the thing when I was 14 that my mom got me into, and that saved my life. But again, because I didn't come from my mom's biggest challenge or focus was trying to survive and raise this kid and make money and try to figure out who the hell she was after 20 years of being a housewife and suddenly being forced to work. So I didn't come from an atmosphere where the thought of going to the arts was actually really, truly considered a viable option. I remember in high school, my art teacher called my mom in and told her that she thought that I could get into Parsons, the Rhode Island School of Design. And it wasn't that my mom didn't want to or that she tried to force my way, but that was not even part of our reality, that a kid from Oklahoma could go to New York City and go to school. I mean, that was just...
But she saw something in you. That's awesome. And do you ever think about what if, like you had done that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I do. I could never have done it. I didn't have that in me at the time to
the confidence.
Leave home and no. And plus I didn't have the social. My mom, when I was 14 was a pretty serious year for me, but I remember when I first got involved in community theater back in Oklahoma, community theater in our small town, it was a very upper echelon thing. It was the upper class, the kind of a snob factor to it that was involved in the theater, and it was an amazing experience. But most of the people that I knew and hung around with were older than me by 20 years, And so I remember one night my mom, it was around Christmas, loaded me up in her Buick Oldsmobile, big old tank, and we drove out to the nice houses out by the lake, the brick ones with the big lawns that were green, no mud in their front lawns. And she drove me slowly, and you could see the people inside the windows with the lights on in these beautiful homes. And she pointed to them, she said, "You deserve to be in there.
Wow.
You deserve that life."
Did your mom pass away recently, or?
I lost my mom. It's still tough. I lost my mom almost 9 years ago from complications due to Alzheimer's. I took care of her for 8 years and watched her go from this strong, stubborn, competent woman to a little child, to not remembering me at times. She died in my arms. That changed me forever.
Yeah.
That and quite frankly, after my mom died, I probably was certifiable. I went nuts for a while.
So in your, the show is primarily about people's spiritual journeys. It didn't sound like you had a lot to unpack. Like Bob and I, we joke because I'm a religious slut and he's a religious virgin, which means he's never drank the Kool-Aid and I guzzled it, And so I had a lot to unlearn. I had a lot of brainwashing to overcome.
Oh.
And Bob always sits over here and scratches his head. Is like, I don't understand why you people do the things you do.
Yeah. Oh, don't get me wrong. I was a Bible thumping, scripture preaching, born again, abortion clinic picketing believer.
Get out, really? Wow.
Oh, one of the first things I did in Nashville is picket an abortion clinic.
Oh my goodness. Were you out at that point?
Oh, hell no.
Okay.
No, I was trying, but no, not even at that point. I didn't come out till I was 30.
How about that? Now in L.A., what's your job?
Production. I'm a production designer, art director for film and television.
Well, that's very creative. That's excellent.
Did you read any of Bob's bios? He's a small film or short film producer, director, screenwriters.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Really. The very first. Well, I mean, when I first started moving into production design unwittingly. It started off in short films and music videos and that kind of thing. And I love the short film genre. I think it's become a pretty significant art form.
Yeah.
You know, anyone can tell a story in an hour and a half, 2 hours, 2.5 hours, but to tell a succinct, important story in 15 minutes, that's pretty cool.
That's tough. It's different. Yeah, that's for sure. So do you work as a freelancer then, or do you work for like a studio? Okay.
No.
Well, that's cool.
He did the backdrop. I don't know, and for the Grammys, was it?
The Oscar.
For the
Oscars?
The Oscars.
The Oscars, bitch, not the Grammys.
See, I'm telling you, I'm totally ignorant when it comes to these things. This is y'all's world right now.
That's
that we're talking
great,
about.
man.
But it's this giant backdrop of roses, and they had to be like 8 foot, across. They were massive.
Wow.
And he made them, designed them, and
Sure.
they used them in the actual thing. So
That's great.
Excellent. I thought that was awesome. You do have an IMDb site. We could pull you up and read off.
I'm very important.
Of course.
Yeah, us too.
Just the assholes out here don't know it yet, but very, very important.
That's good.
I've been very fortunate. I've L.A.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, I say this. It's not a town for pussies, but I'm the closest to one that you can get. Yeah, I don't know how a little short, fat kid from Ponca City, Oklahoma, ends up in L.A. and Hollywood, but I still, whenever I pass the Hollywood sign, I pat myself on the back.
Yeah.
Lately, I pat myself on the ass when I pass it, going, "What were you thinking?" But
wow. Well, it's got to be tough. You know, working freelance or whatever. Working, you do a project and then there's a month or two and you don't do anything, and that's hard. I get
a month or two.
Okay, or more than that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So wow. Well, also, what just blows me away is that when you were in Nashville, you were a Bible thumping, as you put it, scripture reading Christian, or at least you played that on TV. as they say.
The first couple of years, maybe 3, that I was there. Very much part of the whole Belmont Church. The Amy Grant, the Michael W. Smith.
Wow,
it was that was the height of Christian rock. Sure. All that good stuff.
So, Sam, you're picketing abortion clinics. You're Bible thumping, as you
only
said.
one.
Okay, one abortion clinic, and yet this particular religion, this Christian religion that you're in, would not approve of you. What's up with that? I mean, that had to be weird.
Well, why do you think that the drinking and the coke started kicking in?
It's a cognitive dissonance.
Yeah, it is.
I figure if I'm going to hell, I might as well just seal the motherfucking deal.
Well, you can't keep up that facade. I mean, that's not sustainable.
And what was funny, what became really interesting to me was, so I move out there. This business kind of just is handed to me, and I start it. A year later, my mom is hit between the eyes with Lewy bodies, which is a form of Alzheimer's. So I moved her out there. So I'm taking care of my mom.
You moved her to Nashville.
Yeah.
I moved her to Nashville and had her in an assisted living place that I was paying for out of my pocket and trying to do this church thing. And it was funny because during this time, there's this thing, calling it gaydar, about how do you figure out someone else is gay, gay guys meet or whatever. And there's this interaction exchange thing happening. And I remember, I'd go to church and I would see all these leaders or these Christian rockers or whatever. And there was this thing happening, and I'm like going, what? All the time trying to,
this thing being you're picking up that vibe.
This gay vibe thing, right?
Yeah.
And all the time me trying to vomit the demon of homosexuality out of me and stuff. And it just wasn't happening. And hello, you have worship leaders, gay. You have theater, hello, gay. You have dance stuff, gay. And it's kind of like, if you don't talk about it, it's okay. If you're homo, but you don't talk about it, it's okay. Because you're making pretty things for the church.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
But the minute you start talking about it, like I remember I finally was sitting in church one day and the minister said the gay thing one too many times. And I remember it seemed like this 4-hour conversation in about 30 seconds. I remember there were these 3 different conclusions. 1, there's no God and this is all bullshit. 2, there is a God. He made me gay and he's just fucking with me because he's not going to fix me up. Or 3, he really doesn't care. And that was the voice that actually made sense to me. So I got up in the middle of the sermon and walked out. And it's funny because the whole row, you know, as good Christians, all your buddies, you sit together in the same row, right? So you can, you know, harmonize and all that crap. I got up and walked out, and I remember every head in the row turned to look at me. And like, they knew exactly what was going on. I knew they knew. So as I'm walking out, and I'm not exaggerating, I was waiting for God to smite me.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I was waiting for the thunderclap and the lightning bolt to blow this little homosexual into shreds.
Right on the steps of the church on their way out.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I remember I had this conversation driving home.
With yourself?
With God.
Okay.
Or whoever was up there going, you know what? I don't know what I believe. I don't know if I believe in you. I don't know if you're real. I don't know anything about this. But I tell you what, why don't you leave me alone? Give me some time, and we'll talk. But right now, I don't want to have anything to do with you. I need to figure out what I believe in. And so for a year and a half, I had nothing to do with religion, with God. I actually tried to bring back the lion's den. I mean, I was ready to start seeing the Christians being slaughtered again. You know,
you were angry, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, angry doesn't even begin.
Well, yeah, 30 years you bottled it up. I mean, I think that's.
Oh, yeah. And then also here my mom is. You know, I'm just getting my life, and then my mom gets hit with Alzheimer's.
Now, what do you think your mom? Did you ever come out to your mom?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I had to come out twice to her because she forgot the first time. You know, she just didn't. It wasn't that she never shunned me. Her response was, I'm going to go read every book that I can possibly get on this. And she said to me, are you sure maybe it wasn't just a phase? And I was like, you know, Mom, when I wear your bras and house dresses, that was a phase. This I'm pretty sure of.
Gosh.
It was a one-time thing. I just wanted to know what it felt like. But yeah, my mom was pretty cool because she had at one point early on with Alzheimer's, one day she had a stroke and a heart attack at the same time.
Dear.
And we get her to the hospital, and her heart surgeon, who was a very attractive man, walked out of the room, and I'm sitting on the bed with my mom, and she looked at me and she said, I saw him first. And are you kidding? I said, I'm the one that made the ambulance bring your ass here. She said, yeah, but I had the heart attack. I said, yes, and I can make you have another one. She goes, as long as there's a doctor in the family.
Oh, that's funny.
That was my mom. I mean, she started back before, you know, the first time we talked about it briefly, and she started reading and everything. And I finally just said, Mom, you know, put the books down and let's just talk. And we did. And
you know,
that was it.
I hear your story, and you know, it touches the heart, and it makes me a little sad and you know, teary-eyed and stuff. And then I think of this religion that you're you know, wrapped up in, and it's like, how dare you? How dare you do this to this guy? This is a nice man. How dare you? You know?
Yeah.
I just wonder. You know, do you ever think that? Do you ever think like, what?
You
why
know,
would they do this to me?
Well, he talked about being angry. That's
angry, sure.
You know, it's. I don't have a clue what I believe in anymore. I don't know what I believe in. I don't know what I don't believe in. But I think that whatever is out there had nothing to do with this. This is all man-made crap.
Right.
This is all, you know, intellectually you have to look back at, you know, when the Bible was written and the whole organized religion thing came in, was, you know, you had this family of monarchy, you know, 15 inbred syphilitic rulers that are up in a castle.
True.
You know, that were controlling thousands of impoverished, starving, beaten humans. And I think probably one day they realized, oh my God, you know what? There's 12 of us, there's thousands, and if they want to, they could turn on us, and we're fucked. So we're going to come up with this God thing that's going to control them.
Right.
And to support that, we're going to come up with a church to rule them, to tell them, oh, you screw up and you're going to hell.
Right.
It just got blown out of hand. So I was incredibly angry. I felt betrayed. I felt abused. There was an interesting situation that occurred at my church also. Belmont Church was one of the largest non-denominational churches in the country, and I think it was probably on the forefront because of Amy Grant and
this is in Nashville, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who had just led the whole Christian rock movement and everything. Which I just preface this by saying, first of all, Amy Grant, probably one of the most sincere, honest people I've ever met in my life. There's stories I could tell you about her. Sweetheart. So
You've worked for?
I did not work for her. I was working when I first moved to Nashville. I went to work at a gourmet bread shop. It was very hip and cool in those days. And she came in every day to have coffee with a friend or whatever. And she used to do this Christmas concert. It was a huge thing. She came in, and one day she asked me if I was going to be going to the Christmas show. And I said, yeah, I tried, but I couldn't get tickets. They sold out. She said, Sam, which I couldn't believe she knew my name, but she said, Sam, if you could get tickets, would you go? And I was like, sure. Well, a couple of days later, the car pulls up in front of the shop. She runs out with curlers in her hair, a dressing robe on, reaches over the counter of people in line, handing me this envelope with my name on it and 2 tickets to the show.
Wow. Yeah.
So from that point on, she was a sweetheart.
Yeah.
Just kind, just very impressive. So anyway, Belmont Church, they wanted to do this experiment. They wanted to hire an actor to come in to act like a homeless street person, to come into the middle of the service and disrupt it, and to see how the congregation would react. In retrospect, it was a dumbest shit idea, but it was a ballsy time in Christendom, and so they asked to do this role. And of course, me being an artiste, an actor, I took it to the hilt. In the middle of the service, I get up and I'm like mouthing off, and I call them all worms and blah, blah, blah. Well, the guards or whatever you call them there, the greeters were about to tackle me when they finally shut the thing down and dragged me off. And I think it probably almost cost Stephen his job at the time. But anyway, we didn't do it for the other 14 assemblies. And I remember him kind of selling me out. Instead of him ballsing up and taking full credit, I kind of became the scapegoat.
Wow. Threw you under the bus.
So he asks you to do it, and then you do it, and people don't like it, and then you're the one.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sam,
that's very Christian, isn't it? Gee whiz.
Oh, it was pretty weird. It was very weird, but I think that was the first of the spell being broken.
So I'm intrigued with this 3-step thing that you took to God as far as all right. So you come to a place where it's like, I am gay. This is my DNA. This is who I am. I have been raised in a world that doesn't know what to do with me, doesn't like me, is afraid of me, is offended by me, and for 30 fucking years, I have been trying to fit a round hole in a square peg.
Right.
And I'm at the end of my rope. So there either is no God, as far as the way the religion is confronting this ness of you, the Samness, the gayness, or he is capricious in his giving me a disease and then convicting me for having it,
right.
Or he's a cool guy and all this hatred and homophobia is man-made. I can have a relationship with my Creator that totally bypasses all the dogma and doctrine of man-made constructs. Mm-hmm. And would you say that's kind of where you're at? Now, I love what you said a second ago, where you said, I don't know what I believe, I don't know what I don't believe. One of the reasons we call this show Everyone's Agnostic is no one does know. I posted a photograph of this woman being stoned by a bunch of Muslims.
Yeah,
and
bastard that haunted me, by the way.
Wow. Well, I hate to show that shit. I wish I didn't have to, or that it didn't exist. But if we bury our heads in the sands, like we have for so long, then we will just kind of be a passive. We need to expose this stuff. But anyway, I said there's 3 words that could stop this kind of shit from happening, and I think everybody probably thought it was going to be "I love you," and it's "I don't know." Because if those men were standing there, or the men who flew a plane into a building, or the men who pour acid on their own daughter's face, now those are 3 Muslim examples, and I can think of a lot of Christian examples. Mm-hmm. But the point is that if there was an ounce of doubt, where they said, I don't know about flying this plane into this damn building and killing thousands of people. I don't know. This is my daughter, and I kind of like her. I don't know if I really want to pour acid on her face, and I'm not sure. They might get to the point like you did, Sam, where you say, look, there either is no God, or he's capricious, or he doesn't there might be one, but he or she doesn't want me to pour acid on my face. I mean, these are the places that we get to, but we get there by way of doubt and not knowing and admitting that we don't know.
But see, the whole point of religion is you cannot possibly think that way, Cass.
Right.
You cannot have doubt because that's a lack of faith.
Right.
So the whole premise, the whole institution is based upon this blind faith.
Right.
Faith is the ability to believe in that which is not seen, right?
Right.
So from the beginning.
Yeah.
Because this is why there's so much anger and hatred with most religion, because you cannot doubt. I recently experienced something back day after Christmas. I flew to Dubai. Wow. I did a part of a royal wedding out there. There's a party for one of the princesses of the royal family there, and I went out to do part of the party. And my doctor, who is brilliant, Dr. Mo, one of the top HIV specialists in the country, and she said, I said, because she had just posted this information about there's 16 countries that it's legal to stone HIV positive people to death.
How many countries?
16 at the time. This is 8 months ago. 16. I think it's actually grown now. But she said, first of all, sit down. So you're a gay man who's HIV positive, and you're going into the Middle East. And the reality that I could be stoned, not just shot, not hung, but stoned to death for having a virus.
That's horrible.
And that thousands of people have been.
Sure.
And it's all based out of fear. Mm-hmm. When I left religion, when I walked out of that church, and I stepped away from God or whatever for a year and a half, at the end of that year and a half, I came out in that process, lost every one of my friends, discovered the bars. A year and a half later, this is such a stereotype, but Madonna started talking about the Kabbalah, and I went and got it. Again, waiting to be smitten by God. I was waiting for that thumb to crush me. But when I started reading and studying the Kabbalah, it became so brilliant to me. My beliefs in this God or whatever, and I don't say religion, I see God in more of a spiritual realm as it, him, her, the tree, the grass, I don't know, but whatever this God thing is, became so much bigger and so much more real to me after reading the Kabbalah. Every religion starts off with love each other.
Right.
Be merciful to each other. Whether that's ignored or not followed, that's the premise of every religion.
Well, the golden rule, yeah.
It was funny because about that time, I'll wind it back into the original thing, my fear had kept me from studying that for a long time. And I was sitting with a couple of other guys who had recently started coming out of the closet. They were from religion, leaving religion, coming out of the closet, and we were doing mushrooms one night. And we were sitting there, and that shot, and filmed them, when the camera's looking and suddenly it goes, whoop, and it like does this, 180 and the whole...
Yeah, it goes around. It goes from the left side of the head to the right side of the head really fast.
Yeah, exactly. And so the whole focus changes. And that was what happened to me, because forever...
Oh, everything shifted.
I'd always seen Christians as these big, huge, powerful things, and me, this little insignificant fart. And when it shifted, and I don't mean this derogatory or maliciously, but suddenly I saw people that call born again Christians or whatever, religious people, as very insignificant little things, and I was much, much bigger than that.
Mm-hmm. Wow, great.
Again, I don't mean that derogatory or cruel. Yeah. I just mean suddenly I knew how little they were.
Right. So in a way, this I'm up, you're down, they're up, I'm down, that's a language. I mean, that's a lens through which you see things. And so if you've been the one that's tiny and you've been surrounded by giants all this time, and then the first step of an epiphany out of that is going to be in that same language.
Right.
It's going to be, I'm big as they are, and I might even be bigger than they are. And then eventually, there's a step outside of that whole language where you just say, hey, we're just all humans or something.
Well, what my point from I don't like saying I'm bigger and you're smaller.
Exactly.
For me, what it was, fear. I had stepped out of fear, because that is what religious faith is.
Absolutely.
If I don't do well, if I don't perform, God's going to hate me and I'm going to hell.
Which is perpetual disappointment of the person you're trying to win the favor of.
I already have one of those fathers. So at that point, I pretty much had experienced the most horrible things I could experience, the fears. You know, I moved out on my own. I started my own. My mom, who I love dearly, became incredibly ill with Alzheimer's. I watched her melt away, fall apart. I vowed that I would not let fear control me in any form anymore. So when I was advised by some people about not going to Dubai, I went, because I realized I'm not going to let fear interrupt my life. And that's what guides these people. It's not a reverence to a God. It's not a faith that makes them act. It's fear.
I sense that you and I have both had a strong desire to be liked by one another, to impress one another. There may even be like gay tension between us, because I talked on the show last week. You know, I consider myself about 60-40 or 70-30 bisexual, and that I experimented in elementary school. I've sucked cock. I experimented in...
Well, who hasn't?
Right?
Who hasn't?
Well, I haven't, but that's just me, you know.
Freak.
yeah, freak. Well,
I'm outvoted here.
we joked, Sam, in the first episode, I interviewed Bob, and Bob was a altar boy in third grade or something. Yeah. And I said, "Wow, did any priest fuck you in the ass?" And he said, "No."
So
and
he is, isn't he?
And we joked about it later as we were talking about it with some friends, and we said, "Oh, you're the one that got away." And we started we started spinning it, though, that Bob was having like this rejection complex that out of all the little boys in the world,
why didn't I get
what was wrong with me? And so it ended up shaping Bob, not because they fucked him, but because they didn't.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I can certainly understand that.
Yeah.
I've had that rejection before.
We talked about Julia last week, as lesbian, and that she was sexually molested by her father from age 3 to 13 or 12. And a decade. So her growing up hating men, a lot of straight and even homophobic Christian people would say, well, that explains it. She wasn't born that way, right? We'll go there.
Yeah.
She wasn't born that way. She became a lesbian because her dad, and she hated that, etc.
Yeah.
So I was sexually abused or something, messed with by a babysitter, but she was female. So what if I was gay? I was born gay. And somehow being molested by her made me straight.
That bitch.
I guess my point is it's just insane to try to figure out why or how I got this way. It's just who it is, and this is what I bring. And so either love me or leave me.
I think I was molested, earliest memories till I was 14. 14 was a big year for me, God.
Yeah.
I was molested by everybody and everything that walked. Every man, friends, fathers, brothers, whatever.
Really?
But I knew I was gay even before that. Mm-hmm. Even in the midst of that. But I knew that what they were doing to me was wrong. Mm-hmm. So, in addition to the whole religion thing in Oklahoma, I was trying to separate what was gay, what was wrong. And now keep in mind, in the small town I grew up in, there's maybe Ponca City, maybe 24,000 people at the time.
Right.
The height of the oil before the bust. Ponca City was a very snobby little town because there was Conoco, DuPont, a lot of money. But the only gay people that I ever remember as a young child seeing were Frank and Frank. They lived around the corner in this huge 3-story Victorian, of course, that the fags redid and refurbished, and it was gorgeous. And they had an antique, Frank's Antique Shop. I don't know which Frank was that had it, but and they swished and they had manicures, and I just remember going, that is not who I am. Right. That is not. I don't know what that is. I don't want to be that. I like being a guy. And then that was the whole time of, if you are a homosexual, you'll be a pedophile. And I remember having this agreement with God that when I hit puberty, if I ever started molesting boys, that He would kill me, or that I would kill myself. So I think part of my thing was I will kill myself because I know that's what I'm going to become. that was where I was coming from, that I'm going to grow up to be a swishy pedophile. And that I also knew that the sex that was done to me, even though it felt good, I knew it was wrong because of that. So there's all that convoluted, fucked up stuff.
Yeah.
I think there's gay, and I think there's straight, and I think there's a whole hell of a lot of gray in between.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Talk about your HIV. I mean, where I was starting to go down the path is that I have this need and I want to impress you. I feel like it's reciprocal, but that may be just me. And
I think it's just your damn ego. I don't care what you think.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah.
But
hard to get in the room sometimes.
Yeah. So, but the other day I said something about, I was thinking in my head HIV, because I know you have HIV. We talked about it a few months back. And I called it AIDS instead. And then you, bless your heart, you literally were as kind and gentle as you could be, and you started to unpack the difference between AIDS and HIV. And I was so embarrassed that you even felt the need to do that, because I had opened my mouth and came across as an imbecile. But I just let it go, because then any attempt for me to save face would have just been even worse. Yeah. So, but I'll let you talk about it.
Well, no. And first of all, that's sweet of you saying it was. You're not the only one that's done it. I've had guys that have had AIDS, that are in AIDS, say AIDS or whatever, and I make that distinction because there is a huge difference between HIV and AIDS. Yeah. And I remember when I was first diagnosed a little over 2 years ago, my world came to a crashing halt. I immediately flashed to 20 years ago when people went away and died a hideous, horrible death. Yes. And that's what I thought was going to happen to me. And because you can be disposed to diabetes, but you don't have diabetes. You can carry the polio virus or whatever, but you don't develop polio. Mm-hmm. I have a virus that can lead to AIDS. I don't have AIDS. I will never develop AIDS, pending I continue to get my medication and all that good stuff. I have a virus that has damaged my immune system, that is on a mission to kill me, but I have medication that keeps it under control. So I try to sweetly say that. I mean, I've been going to a support group for newly diagnosed. And there's a guy that was diagnosed 25 years ago, and he was into full-blown AIDS. And the scientists, doctors, or whatever, the community, if you've ever been diagnosed as AIDS, then you have AIDS the whole time. So I try to make that distinction because there's such a stereotype and such a stigma and such a panic about HIV and AIDS. Mm-hmm. So that's the only reason why I do that. It's not out of trying to be a dick, although I like to with you. It's fun. I don't usually get a chance to, but no, it's more of an education thing. I find myself now more than falling apart, and I don't cry anymore when I say it. Usually, I kind of recognize myself or see myself more as a educator of it.
Sure. All right. Well, we normally do a speed round, and I don't know. I don't feel like doing one today. I feel like we've done a lot. We do close with the religious questions that just kind of.
Is this when we pray?
Yeah, we're gonna pray.
We hold hands.
Yeah. What about the afterlife?
If you had asked me prior to my mom dying, I would have told you flat out, I know exactly what is there. Post that, I don't have a fucking clue. I want to believe that there is something beyond this, because quite frankly, if this is all there is, this day-to-day shit, and then you die and you rot and that's it, I'm gone. Yeah. I'm done. There has to be something more than this, I'm hoping. I used to look at reincarnation as a spring. You just keep coming back, and now I kind of see it more as a conical. The conical kind of springs that each trip gets a little bit tighter and tighter. Well, I made a vow a long time ago that I want to learn everything I got to learn this trip. So when I get to ride, it's a small world the second time, I'm learning, I'm doing something different and better.
Right.
I sense that there's something else out there. Even amongst the deepest, darkest days, I've had too many experiences that tell me there's something out there. Mm-hmm. There's something better.
So you just keep it open?
I do. I mean, I have become pretty comfortable at 48 years old. Finally, I can say I don't know nothing about nothing, and I don't have to. I trust that whoever is out there, if they have enough mercy and kindness and belief and love for me, then they're going to take me for whatever.
Yeah, so I really have to back up and think about that. The part where you said, if this is all there is, I'm out, and I think that is one. I know for a fact that that's one of the accusations, or at least the common retaliations of religious people to atheists, is what do you got to live for? Because you think this is a scientific accident, you think you're just a cellular conscious being. Your post-life is going to be as conscious as your pre-life, your pre-birth, which was none. We have no consciousness of our pre-birth. And so you are going to, energy might continue, but your consciousness is going to die with your brain, which is just another muscle that dies. And so the electricity's gone, therefore the nervous system is gone, therefore you can't convert anything into a nervous signal or a conscious thought. And so you're gone. And that is the question. And it sounds to me like you've kind of confirmed their suspicions that if there is no afterlife, then this little blip of existence was bullshit or a waste or whatever, So I don't know. I just it sounded to me like if you get to the end and find out that, and of course you won't find out because you'll be too dead to find out, that it really was nothing, then had you had a consciousness, you'd be pissed. You'd feel ripped off.
I will come out with that a little over, about 14 months ago, I got clean from using meth. I was addicted to crystal meth for almost 5 years.
Wow, there's it coming out.
Yeah. Wow. And I don't talk about it a lot because, you can rape babies and kill dolphins and not be treated the way you are if you do meth. It was a time, I told you, when my mom died, I went crazy. I wanted to die. I just didn't have the courage to do it. And wow. The drug came along and found me, and there you go. Anyway, point being, for the first time in almost 18 years, I am completely clean. Not that I don't have a beer or wine, and shut up if you're AA, whatever, just bite me. But point being that I am, quite frankly, just now coming out of the cloud. It's taken me over a year to get my brain somewhat back.
Whoa.
And I am actually, and I started doing coke and drinking probably 18 years ago to excess and on a regular basis. And so for the first time, I am actually having to learn who I am. This sounds silly, but how to react socially, how to walk, how to carry myself, how to, take care of myself. And so I kind of view this as almost as a very religious kind of a thing.
It's beautiful.
I think the thing that got me into the mess to begin with was having to fight dragons, having to know the answers. So for me, I trust that there's something better out there. There's something bigger, because I know for whatever reason something pulled me out of where I was, because I'm one of the very apparently incredibly fortunate people that I didn't have to go to rehab. I just stopped. All that being said, I know that there's something out there. I don't know what it is. I don't know. It may be a tree. It could be a shrub. I don't know. But there's something out there, in my belief.
Probably the most encouraging thing that I've heard all hour is what you just said. I'm on a mission to find myself. And like what Bob has done so many times in his life, redefine myself. I think you're on, it sounds like, and I'm just being wishful thinking and hopeful, but you're on the precipice of something. And my desire for you, as it is for me or anybody else, is to see you're surrounded by people who love you and get you. That's a big deal when you're like you and I, that get you. When you do find people, and I'm hoping that for you. What do you hear me saying?
I hear very sweet things, actually, very kind things, and I appreciate it. And I want to be in a place where I have friends, where I have community, where I belong, and I'm happy being there. I'm not happy here. First of all, I hate the fucking desert. Palm trees are the ugliest goddamn trees ever created. And have you ever seen a fucking palm tree with Christmas lights on it? It's like godless. I'm leaving this.
Okay,
to the rats.
I probably should leave it with that, but I have another one that just came up. I know you're familiar with the victim mentality and stuff. And I know that your dad left at 7, and your gayness was misunderstood your whole life up to this day to some degree. See, I don't know the language. And you and I sat in your car at one time at Ponca City, and you told me something that I was shocked by, and that there was like all these married straight guys that would call you so they could blow you.
Well, it's not that unbelievable. I am pretty godlike.
It's like they were looking for a way to express their own closeted homosexuality. And it was on a scale like, I didn't know if you were embellishing or what, but it was like you were saying, no, there's I don't remember the numbers, but
bitch, I don't have to lie. I got statistics.
Yeah, okay. But there was a lot of closeted married men, Christian men that would call you on the down low. At some point after you experienced, because you're what, 49? 450? What are
48.
You? All right, I'm 48. I didn't know. I thought you were a year older than me. After 40, shut up, man. After 48 years, at what point do you say the common denominator is me? And the problems that have followed me for 48 years, I might have something to do with them. And so, maybe in this change, I don't mean become your fucking shrink today, but maybe in this change of direction for you, you're looking on the inside as well as just changing from Nashville or from LA to Nashville, changing your outer circumstances. There is this degree, because you just said, I'm having to ask myself, what does it mean to be socially engaged with others or whatever? You're having to redefine everything. How much of it are you looking at? Are you looking at anything where you say, I think to some degree I've played the victim, and maybe that needs, or at all? Have you ever felt like you played the victim, or am I just? I
think you just like to hear yourself talk.
I do.
I don't think
I'm trying to dance around that. I think you have. That's really what I'm saying.
Well, you're an idiot, but I don't think that I've played the victim or ever. No, I've made decisions. I've never played the victim. I'm simply telling facts the way they are.
Right.
And
we're flipping each other off for those that are not on the podcast.
No, actually, I don't. I mean, and if that's what you get, well, you're stupid. But I don't believe I'm playing myself the victim. I'm telling you the way it is. And absolutely, a lot of things have come my way because of my own doing. Why do you think I started drinking and using drugs? It wasn't because life was great.
Well, self-hatred.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, that was presumptuous of me to assume.
Yes, it was.
Yeah. And what we're noticing about everybody is we are all navigating this stuff because we're meaning-making people. And we need purpose. There's no way to get around the fact that some of what shapes our ideologies is wishful thinking. We try not to self-delude too much or willfully, be ignorant about it. But you've navigated it. You've come up with something that's working for you. And that's the permission, in a way, that we want to give everyone. And, when you walked out and you started a new journey, the only way that you could do that, and you admitted that when you first walked out, you expected to be struck with lightning. When it didn't happen, all of a sudden, the fear goes away, and you don't have that pressure to be right. You don't have that pressure to be correct. And that's one of the things that I heard, in your journey.
Yeah.
So, man, I don't know. You got anything you want to add or sum up or?
I'm not a victim, goddammit.
You're still thinking about that?
I'm joking. No, I think it's great what you're doing. I mean, yes, you are obnoxious, and I get tired of your rants at times, but I do know your heart, and I know where you're coming from. People that had crummy childhoods because of their parents or whatever, you can only blame your parents for so long before you get up and go, okay, now I'm making my own choices. And it's funny, it's interesting to be at a point where I don't blame anyone for anything. I willingly have made decisions. I mean, there have been things that have happened to me that I've had no control that suck. But
yeah, that's everybody, right?
That's everybody. But I take responsibility for actions. I take responsibility or decisions I made. And the thing that I will say is, until you are paying my bills, until you are walking the walk with me, until you're suffering the lows and you're partying with the highs with me, until you are inside of my head, until you know all the details, just back the hell off. I made decisions, I made choices, and I survived it.
Yeah.
Were they the best ones? No, I made some decisions that I'm not necessarily proud of, or that I think were the best choices, but I made the decisions I could at the time, and here I am.
Yep.
Doing pretty well, thank you. And so I think be kind, because everybody that you meet is going through something that you have no clue.
Yeah.
I am trying with all my heart to get to a place of non-judgment, of basing my opinions on facts that I see, that I experience, not what people tell me, not what, well, so-and-so said. But I'm trying to become a gentler, kinder person. And I think that if we all just realize that we don't know anything about anything.
There you go. That's it. Yeah. And that, I did love that. Everybody's fighting a battle. And so cut them some slack. In fact, we were in traffic the other day, and Mindy, and somebody was honking it, probably me or something, and Mindy goes, she goes, "Stop honking, everybody's doing the best they can," and
I like that.
And Amy,
I like that.
Exactly.
Amy
was in the back seat going, "I'm going to write that down,"
I mean, that has been the hardest thing for me to overcome, is the whole road rage, because people are stupid.
Right.
You get behind a car, they're idiots with 5,000-pound vehicles.
Okay, I got a story. I'm in traffic this week, and a guy comes over. He's changing lanes into me, like I'm in the lane that he's changing into. So I pretty much have to lock it up. Just he didn't see me. I was in his blind spot. So when he hears my tires, and I don't honk, but he heard my tires, and he kind of saw me, and he realized, and he cut back over a minute, but it was too late. I was already giving him enough room. So he comes over, and literally, I had just come out of making last week's podcast. And when I am working on the podcast, and when I'm talking with human beings and sharing their story, I have so much compassion and empathy for human beings that I was still high from Julia's story. And so I'm in traffic, and he comes over, I lock up, and there's three of them in the car, and they're young, whatever stereotype you want to give to that. But yeah, stupid, right? You're going to just assume anybody pulls over you stupid. But when you see three high school kids, together in a car, that's just trouble or whatever. But I was so high and naive, I guess, about in my judgment was just gone. I just waved him off. I literally waved and gave him a big thumbs up, and I said, "Everything's okay." And they, in turn, he waved back, and he held his hand up for like 5 seconds, just saying, "I'm so sorry." And I got high. I mean, I got a rush. I got goosebumps because I was the one offended. I didn't flip him off. I initiated non-judgment and just said, "Hey, it's okay. You did you didn't see me. It was a very human thing you just did. No big deal. Drive on." And he responded in a way that I think he was shocked, probably, that I didn't flip him off, because I normally would. Or anybody would, right? So anyway, that's the point. And there's another long rant that Sam had to sit through.
That's true.
No. So I'd tune you out after the first few seconds. No, it's true. No, it's true. It's like I've had to learn that big time in L.A., the patience and stuff, and realizing I think 99.9% of the time it's just people trying to get to where they're going. They're not doing it intentionally, and they're not doing it viciously. And if they are, that's their problem. It's not mine. And so to learn to just chill out and let them go. Let them speed past me. I'll get over, let you go. Whatever you got to do, because your life has got, So I think that's a pretty much a lesson for the entire life.
Right.
Don't worry. I'll get out of your way. You can go. It's not a big deal. Go. Hit that finish line.
Yeah.
Get that finish line. Well, it's good to talk to you, Sam. I
Great,
love
Sam.
you.
Now, you guys, thank you very much. And
Thank
I
you,
wish
Sam.
you the best with the show, Cass. And hopefully this comes off good and no one kills himself after listeing to me.
No, it's going to be good.
It's a good show. Absolutely.
All right. Talk to you later.
Thanks.
All right, bud.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, that's our conversation with Sam Rhimes. I hope you enjoyed it. Sam is a sweetheart, been through a lot, and everybody's spiritual journey, everybody's trek, sojourn, pilgrimage is unique, and most of all, what we come away with is the license to be wrong, the license to try things, and the expulsion of fear. And I think if anything came through on Sam's testimony, his conversation was that. Can't emphasize it enough. We don't know, and no one knows, and we're doing the best we can. I appreciate Sam for coming on. Everybody who's come on so far, and actually we are starting to book up a couple of months in advance now. We've got some shows that are lining up that are going to be fantastic. Of course, every one of them can be fantastic because it's a human being with real stories, and truth is always stranger than fiction. So thank you so much for listening. I totally love doing this, and I'm so grateful that anybody is listening and feels the same way about the show that I do. Giving license and permission to one another to make it up as we go, to create our own theology, and know that it's fluid. I think that was Julia's word in episode 5. It's fluid. We're fluid. Nothing static about us. We're dynamic, and we're changing. And so thanks so much. Love you guys. Bye-bye.